Okay, I'll call the, excuse me, Monday, July 16th, 2018 meeting of the Monona Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Kitzler?
Here.
Acting Mayor Wood?
Here. And as you can see, the mayor is not going to be here tonight. I just turned my computer off. So that's good. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
I'll second that as soon as I can see them. That's the June 18th meeting. Any changes?
No.
All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. No appearances. There's no unfinished business. Wally, you're here to, are you going to leave? You're going to have to stick around anyway, right? So.
Stick around so I can do stuff anyway.
Okay, well then we can talk, we'll just go in order.
Sure.
Okay.
Do you mind taking, wait till Diane gets here?
Oh, okay, sure.
She may not have realized she needed to do this. I just sent her a note. She is in the office, I'm sorry.
She's going to be here for the council meeting,
Yes.
for sure.
She's at an A.
Yeah, well, just in case she does show up, why don't we'll skip to 6B. Consideration of Resolution 18-7-2279, amending the 2018 capital budget for increased cost of demolition services for the riverfront development. Is that Mark or April?
Oops. Sorry. Okay, so our original contract for Robinson was $998,435. We did have a lot of deductions in this process. We had some additions that we were able to approve previously because they were under budget, specifically the demolition of the Boudin's building, but we also need to dispose of some contaminated soil. And if we do that and improve that amount, then we will be exceeding our bid award by $19,676. The cost for the contaminated soil disposal is $34,500. So this was a bit of a late coming item into all of this because they needed to get into the building and we didn't own it until recently, and they needed to do some investigations, so they didn't know the extent at that time, so this is the newest estimate that they were able to provide. And Mark just handed out a fiscal note here at your table. And again, this whole Boudin's project was not in the original contract because we were not able to get into the building because we didn't own it at that time. So that's the reason for these late stage changes to Robinson's contract.
Mark?
So the overall budget, or the overall what we borrowed for, was $1,100,000. Is what we had put in the project plan for this project. Is what we borrowed for too. So basically, right now, there's a spreadsheet behind the fiscal note. Total to date. If you look at the bottom, there's the last three lines is the total cost. We spent $1,076,000 so far. The agreements with all the current contracts with Robinson Strand and A&E, asbestos people, and some other miscellaneous ones, adds up to $1,106,000. So the $6,000 was going to come from just leftover project money from other TIFs things. So really, what ends up happening here was, technically, if you had the $6,000 in there now, we're about $26,000 over the $1.1 million. So what the process would be is we're borrowing here in September for the whole river, not all of riverfront projects, but for a lot of the infrastructure in the park. So I'm going to see where we're at with the sewage or the move of the sewer pipe and some other projects. See if we're under anywhere there. Otherwise, might have to include the $26,000 in the borrowing coming up here in September.
Okay. I have a couple questions. So the resolution says $998,435 with Robinson, but the spreadsheet says the agreement amount is $950,864.
And I hadn't adjusted that yet. That was for originally, after there was a bunch of deductions that were happening. So when we got, before these entries, I was down to 950,000.
Okay. So,
So technically, it probably should have been 900, whatever, thousand, but I was just going to what the last contract we had with them, after deductions were all taken off.
but let me just follow up. On the very right-hand bottom corner of the spreadsheet, looks to me like it indicates we still have $30,319 remaining. Is that before this amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, we only spend 921,000. We have a total for Robinson. Some of the bills, it's probably been spent already, just the bills haven't been paid yet. So this is just everything that's been officially paid. There's retainages and stuff like that. So, the cash out so far has been 921,000.
And again, the original contract award was $998,435.
So
All right. Which still, well, okay, still seems like the original, that we're still below the total cost. How much is this this amendment, or how much is this extra work going to cost? 19,676? Or is it 19,676 over what we have budgeted?
Yeah, so for my last email, I was gone on Friday, but the email I don't have in front of me from Sonia, it's actually, this is the net amount. So I think the actual amendment was like a lot higher than 19,000 plus.
Yeah, the 34,500.
Right, that's for just the soil disposal.
Okay, and then last question. There's a blank for dollars for abandonment of monitoring wells, which would then give a total. Is that, would you have a figure to put in that blank?
I don't think that they have that yet.
Okay, so that should be stricken from this. Well, we're not approving it tonight, right? No, we are.
Yeah, they have to start on this work very soon, yeah.
It's not start. So
Isn't it start?
no, I wasn't here Friday. So
Oh,
I
okay.
came through.
I mean, if we're not borrowing it until September, we won't have, I mean, I guess the bill might not come in.
Right.
Yeah, this one it's starred on the council agenda.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Does it-
That's my fault.
Does it need to be started? I mean, it sounds like from Strand's email that they want action as soon as possible, but I mean, if we're going to exceed the contract amount regardless of when we're going to borrow, we still, we do need to amend the budget. I mean, it's basically, we're paying for a change order, right?
Right, it's all
Exactly.
it all is a
They're change orders.
I'm probably making this more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, 'cause-
Well, I'm glad you're asking these questions.
Good.
Yeah,
Andy,
could-
you have some?
So I just want to be clear, so $26,000, 203 is what we're asking to go above it? Or the 19, well, you said the 19,676?
19,676.
That's what we're asking?
Yeah.
just for the Robinson
Okay.
contract.
Okay, so just for the Robinson,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, and it looks like they want to start hauling the contaminated soils off the site next week, so that's why I can't wait till August.
On the spreadsheet, when you say second to last from bottom, it says agreement,
Mhm.
is that referring to the contract? Or is the agreement different than the 998?
So, yeah, I probably shouldn't have put that in there like that. So, at the time, the original contract was 998, and then we had a bunch of change orders that reduced it down to 950 at the
Okay.
time. So when I was doing my stuff, I was making sure they were paying out to the 950. So that's how I would do it, to make sure that the
Yeah.
last update I had was 950.
I don't know how this would be possible, but I'm always interested when contracts go below
Sure.
Mhm.
and we have those types of change orders. I mean, obviously, we always see when it has to go above and beyond,
Right.
and we have to approve that. But I don't know what that process might look like, or if I just ask questions more often, or, I'd be interested in knowing kind of as those change.
Yeah, because there's ones that do, like street projects do go
Mhm.
under what they were
Yeah.
original.
Yeah, and usually staff can just approve that, so that's why it
Which is
doesn't
fine,
cycle
yeah.
through, yeah, yeah.
Right.
But I don't know if there's a way to.
It'd be interesting to
I don't know
know,
if you'd
though.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's- Yeah, usually you hear a change order and you think it's bad news for sure.
right.
Yeah.
No, and sometimes it's good news, actually. In this case, it was, but adding the boudins obviously is bringing us over the originals, so. The
Okay.
past ones we were able to approve because we didn't go over the total, but this one puts us over.
And so I still come back though to where the resolution has a blank for the amount for abandonment of monitoring wells.
You know what, and I did not see any information come in today to fill into that blank, and I think there was supposed to be, and I don't know why I did not get any information on that. I'm kind of, Sonia was not in the office today, so I'm doing this a little bit secondhand.
Right. Well,
Can't approve what we
yeah,
don't
we
know.
can't, yeah, so I think we'll have to strike
Yeah, I
that
don't-
part and then, I mean, well, it won't be in the budget, so you can, well, we'll have to figure out
Yeah, I just
what
don't
to
see
do
it.
yet. So, okay. You want to make a motion, you want me to? Or go ahead.
Do we just make a motion to table or for council approval, since we
Right.
don't know these two blanks, or would
Well,
you
we
do?
probably won't know them then either, so either way, we can just move. Well, I'll move that we forward this, or that we approve this, that we pass a motion recommending approval, but striking out the language about, and the blank for the abandonment of monitoring wells for a total of blank dollars. So basically, end that sentence at 19,676 and get rid of the rest of the sentence.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or is that a roll call?
Yes.
Would you call the roll, please?
Alder Wood,
Aye.
Alder Kinsler.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we had skipped yours, so we'll go back to 6A is consideration of resolution 18-7-2276, amending the 2018 operating budget for a full-time project assistant position in the senior center. You wanna Go up to the podium.
Before Diane gets up there, I just passed out, just so you're aware of the effect on next year's budget for some of the items, fire, the rec, the dispatch, and if the senior center gets approved, rust collections, things that happen during the year, like, for instance, we started dispatch in July, we budgeted for July, so this will be a full year. Same with fire, same with rec. So this is the effect on 2019 budget to start. And somebody had a question about the fund balance. This is where our current fund balance, and it's basically 25% is what our percentage is.
The fund, and we would just take only the 8,000 or
Yeah.
9,300 out of fund balance
Correct.
for the rest of this year. Okay. So I want Diane, go ahead and tell us
So
about
the senior
this.
center was recently informed that one of our part-time project assistants is retiring. I was told on July 2nd, and she is officially done as far as us working together, but she's going to cover a couple of vacation days. When we had an intern last academic year, we had an intern for 16 hours a week for 2 semesters. And at the conclusion of that, it was pretty clear we could keep an intern busy 16 hours a week, that we could probably justify having some additional staff. When I did some research into this, I realized over the past 10 years, participation in senior center programs has increased by 61%, and the number of programs that we offered has increased by 54%. So when we take a minute to pause and look at things, it's no wonder we feel so busy and overwhelmed. Things have grown tremendously over the past decade. As studies have shown, numbers of seniors are probably not decreasing numbers in coming years, so it's probably smart to think ahead that those numbers are only going to remain high or remain increasing in coming years. The value of having a consistent staff is one that I think we should look into. I'm the only full-time staff person at the senior center, so I'm the only one who a lot of consistent things get passed on to. When you have 2 part-time staff, they spend time after they've been gone for a couple days. What have I missed? You know, kind of catching up, and then that just rotates over and over again. Jake and Parks and Recs recently did a change similar to this, and I asked if they'd had some great benefits to going full-time. And, you know, definitely they have seen huge benefits to having a full-time staff as opposed to 2 part-time. Just makes it so much easier with follow-through and like responses to emails, following through on phone calls. A lot of that stuff falls on me because my 2 staff aren't there consistently every day. We have a lot of volunteer staff, or volunteers who come to the senior center, and having another consistent staff means that they don't always have to come to the director. They can come to another consistent staff person with questions about what happened yesterday or what's happening tomorrow. I tried to think of what questions might come up. Why not just keep on having interns? Love interns, but as you know, there's a teaching process, and then they're beneficial for some time, and then you start all over again. So probably not the most efficient way to use our time if we could have consistent staff. When I look at things that could possibly be accomplished above and beyond what we're doing now, I think we could have better online presence. More of our younger seniors are going online or doing social media, and we just don't have the time. We do a 20-page newsletter every month, and we do still have those seniors who like the paper print newsletter, but we aren't getting on social media and our website quite as much as we should. Networking, both for myself and other staff, I don't get out of the office. So networking with other professionals doesn't happen as much as I would like it to. Getting the word out about the senior center, when you talk transit and how senior numbers are going down. Years ago, I used to try to go to the senior housing facilities and let them know, if you're new to the area, this is the Monona Lift. Let's talk about what the senior center has to offer. I haven't done that in years. Just, haven't had the time to dedicate to that. And we might even take lunch breaks away from our desk. That might be a new thing that we just don't. Midday is a big transition time at the senior center, so I don't think our staff do healthy breaks or take time for themselves, which by the end of the day we're all kind of beat. So I realize budgets are tight. It's not an easy thing to do. But if you've been on council for a while, I don't ask for things above and beyond the budget very often. So I wouldn't be asking unless it were absolutely necessary. Any questions for me?
I don't think so. Oh, I don't.
No, I don't really have any questions for you. I mean, I have, because I appreciate, the fact that this is a growing population, you have the needs, you're the only full-time, frankly, I don't know how you operate the popular senior center and all the events that you do. I mean, I don't know. I know the operating budget process is just getting started, and, if Mary was here, one of the questions I'd ask her is just, what does she know that's coming down the pike from others?
Mm-hmm.
Just because it is hard to kind of weigh all this now that we've seen that we essentially, if we back this out, we essentially have $99,000 of new money already approved for 2019.
Right.
But I think that's something in between meetings I can kind of talk to her about and figure out. But no, I mean, as a concept, I fully support this and think that it's worthwhile. But
Yeah, that's sort of my feeling too, is that it's warranted if we can afford it in the bigger context. And it was like the one email I think that I exchanged with her while she's been on vacation was about that I basically telling her I decided to put it on the agenda so that because that way it can be approved at the first meeting in August, and Diane won't, it'll lessen the amount of time that she has to deal with just a half-time support.
mm-hmm.
There are some other potential positions out there that might be requested that she's thinking about. But we'll know that at the August 6th meeting. Mark, could you talk a little bit about the impact of TIF 2 and what that will likely do for the levy limit?
Yeah. So a couple things, kind of going over the operating budget, just kind of today a little bit in the staff meeting. So TIF 2, it's closing this year, but we have to keep it open for the Renew Monona. So this year we'll get a closing amount in our fund balance of basically 810,000 is what we'll get, go to our fund balance. But TIF 2 will be open for years, so we won't get that increment until the year after. But just talking to Mary, because it's roughly going to be about 350,000, we're going to take 350,000 out of the $800,000 of fund balance we're getting to make up for that this year. And we're roughly probably going to get.
Sorry,
How much was that again?
350 is coming out for what?
That's what we think we're going to get. That's what we'll get roughly for the TIF 2 closing to the added to the levy limit.
That's our share of it
Yeah.
after we take up what
Gotcha.
the other
And
jurisdictions get.
roughly what our other share would be from just the general is about 150. So we're looking at basically about a $500,000 we're looking at, give or take this year. It's not official yet, but that's kind of what we're looking at. So we are looking, I did some analysis, just kind of some projections where we're at, with health insurance at 8% and some Wisconsin retirement, some other stuff with these these positions that we had to go basically a full year now, what the impact is, and we're roughly about 350,000 already. So that's kind of where we're at, but that's not a hard number. It's just a lot of changes are going to come along and stuff like that. So
We're at 350 if this is approved.
yes, yeah. So that's they're not hard numbers. I mean, they're still, because they're ever changing what goes on within departments, and revenues are not that's coming. So for like new positions, people are probably aware there's other positions. Public safety looks like they might be
Right.
going for position. Parks and things like that. So we do know there's that coming down the line. But we do know we're roughly going to be roughly around 500,000, and 350 is kind of based on these numbers already kind of accounted for.
So the 350.
So it still leaves 150.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 145 that we have on this is the new money that we did not contribute or put in this year.
Right. So it has
So
to
the
be
difference, and then the 350 is counting all of those positions as a full year.
Yeah, it's
or not brush collection, but
Yeah.
yeah.
counting, health insurance projections and all
Okay.
that stuff. As you notice, the fire is really low compared to what you maybe thought it might be. Part of it is the new person's an opt-out. So the health insurance change is a huge change, going from we budgeted a family, and to have it as a opt-out is a huge savings. So that wasn't as big of an impact as it could have been. So that's
Mhm.
a plus.
Gotcha.
So did I understand correctly then that the mayor's plan is that in 2019 we would use fund balance?
To balance it for the 1 year until we actually get the TIF closing amount money. So it
Okay.
has it has a zero effect over the
Right.
2 years. Yeah.
And then after that, will we be able to increase the levy that much
Yeah, I mean, we'll have that one-time increase, we'll be able to cover.
because of the TIF?
Yeah.
So it's an exception to the levy limit law?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we'll have that 800,000 coming in, but we'll still 300. So the fund balance number I gave you tonight, 25, is probably the lowest it's gonna be for a little bit. So I know it's gonna be an issue as, do we use it for some other stuff, or we just let it balance, because it'll go well over 30%. So,
And just so I'm understanding, so the TIF 2 closes in 2018, but we keep it open until 2019?
for Renew
For the
Monona.
reunion, okay. For some reason, I was thinking we closed it 2017. This is-
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was some stuff, I thought it was two, and then Gary said that we have to after, and talk to the state to verify all this stuff, and.
Okay.
So even after these increases, though, we'd still have another 150?
Roughly, yeah. Yeah, they're not hard numbers. It's a good estimate, yeah. That's counting LDRs. I mean, if health insurance comes in at 4%, then it's gonna be a lot more if it comes in at 12%. I'm using 8% as the,
Right.
I mean, that would have an effect, but that's the biggest thing. And then we have, the one other big thing that's gonna affect us is, the budgets, is our two largest, well, the two union contracts are up,
Right.
and that'll be the two, that's the major driver in the wages, so, that could have an impact too. But if everything goes to what I projected, then we'll have 150 roughly. If revenues increase or Jake finds some more money or somebody finds some better estimates.
When do we usually know about the health insurance? That's usually what, late November?
Usually probably, no, it's
Yeah.
probably into September or
Oh,
October.
okay.
Yeah.
It's usually never less than 8% increase.
Yeah. Roughly it's been around 8%. You know, we changed one year and then it was down. But yeah,
Yeah.
it roughly stays around there.
So what do you want to do with it in terms of finance? Should we leave it for, table it so it's on the next agenda for both finance and city council so that the mayor can
Yeah,
weigh in more fully?
Because this isn't start for today, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, if we table it and then bring it back up at the next council meeting,
Okay,
or finance meeting. So, move to table.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye,
Aye. Motion passes.
thanks.
Thanks for asking. 6C is consideration of ordinance 17-18-702, creating chapter 198-6 of the Code of Ordinances regarding smoking and vaping in educational facilities. Chief Ostringa. I think he's got the next 6 or so.
Yeah, we have a whole list of things here. This started probably back in March or April with our school resource officer trying to address issues with the latest technology, which was not in our city ordinance as far as, you know, like vaping, electronic delivery devices. I think there's something else called juuling, which I don't know if that's actually, I don't recall if that's worded in the ordinance or not. But we copied this one from the city of Madison. It went before public safety. Public safety authorized us to proceed with it. We had Bill Cole review it, went back before public safety. They voted in favor of it, and it is now before the city council.
Questions?
Do we already ban vaping on city? Because we ban smoking in city properties, right? And would that be addressed in this, or is that, you want to keep that separate?
This is separate. This is strictly in educational facilities.
Okay.
I know I've driven down the street and I've seen this big cloud of smoke, and I'm going, what is that person doing? And it's vaping.
Yeah. So we currently don't prohibit vaping in city facilities?
I do not know if that would be a specifically a different section
Different,
of
okay,
this.
all right.
This just deals with educational
Perfect.
facilities, but that's probably something to look at.
And I don't know, and this is really a question for Bill, is whether we could, I don't think we can, but prohibit vaping within 15 feet or whatever the statute allows on smoking, but I think we're preempted. I know we're preempted on dealing, basically, well, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it lately.
Can't
It's-
license them or do anything, because there's no tobacco, I mean, there's no
Nicotine?
nicotine, and so.
No, there is nicotine. There's no smoke.
There's a component, it's not considered tobacco, so.
Right,
So it's not regulated.
right. Okay. I do know that I've been around some people vaping recently, and it's, you know, you think it's just steam, but it definitely has a significant odor. It smells like tobacco, so. And then there's a fine.
Be the general penalties
General
applied,
penalty.
which would be $50 for first offense, $100 for subsequent offense.
Okay. Want to make a motion, or
Move to approve?
I'll second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to the next one. 6D, consideration of ordinance 7-18-703, creating chapter 281-9 of the Code of Ordinance regarding sexting.
Another ordinance that was referred to me, requested to me from the school resource officer. He's had several cases involving sexting, and what we did in this one, we basically copied an ordinance that was in another jurisdiction in Wisconsin, brought it before public safety. Public safety said proceed with it, had Bill Cole, our city attorney, review it, and we came up with this particular ordinance, which would have the general penalties would apply for this one also.
So this would only apply to the unsolicited sending of messages covered by the ordinance, or the soliciting, asking somebody to send you such a message, correct?
Yes,
So if you just get one, you're not in violation.
correct. In this particular one, would apply to, I believe, just juveniles. I know it came up at our staff meeting that we talked about it a little bit, but this is strictly for, we would apply for juveniles.
Your questions? Did you want?
I'll move to approve.
Could we, let's discuss it a little more?
Oh,
Well,
yeah, no problem.
I guess I'd prefer just to move it on to the council, but I mean, really, our only interest, I think, is the potential for revenue. That's really the only reason it's even on our agenda. I just have a concern, a couple of them. Mainly, it defines it as, I'll just say, a message depicting nudity, sexual conduct, or sexual excitement that predominantly appeals to a prurient, shameful, or morbid interest. The shameful part is, it seems vague. I don't know what. Could you talk more about the context? Like how did this come up, and why did you think
It came
was
up because in the schools, the SRO is running across these type of cases, and
But they're not cases, because we don't, they're situations, they're not.
well, he's coming up with these situations where this is occurring, and there's no penalty through a city ordinance or even a state statute, because if they were to be charged by the state, the DA's office isn't going to prosecute something like this. So he's looking for an alternative where there's some penalty for doing this besides just school sanctions. Sometimes it's something that's happening with kids in the school, but it's not necessarily in the school. It might be originating, it has to be obviously within the city of Monona. But he's looking for an ordinance that would apply for this.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree that it's objectionable conduct to do this. I just worry about kind of getting into trying to regulate the sexual behavior of teenagers is, I don't know that it's going to be very successful.
This doesn't differentiate between consensual and non-consensual, right? Or, because I guess I was reading this as non-consensual, one of the parties is not agreeing to whatever's happening.
Well, I mean, every now and then you hear of a case where someone starts blackmailing someone, because they kind of goad them into sending them a picture, and next thing you know, that picture's being sent out all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So it could start out as a consensual relationship, but again, these are minors that are doing this. Next thing you know, it's all over the internet.
Yeah.
And then mom and dad are going, what are we going to do about this? How can we stop this? Well, this hopefully will be a deterrent. I mean, we're hoping to never have to write a ticket.
Yeah.
But if the word is out there that you could get cited and it's a fine in the city of Monona, It's kind of like our bully ordinance.
Yeah.
Start the discussion and maybe it won't happen.
And how much is the fine again? Sorry.
It's the general fine, so $50 plus court costs for the
Okay.
first offense. Each subsequent offense would be $100.
Okay.
So, but it would actually apply to consensual, because if somebody asks somebody else to send them such an image or message, that the person soliciting it would be guilty of violating the ordinance. The person sending it, I don't believe would be.
So if it's under that B2A, a minor commits the offense of sexting if he or she knowingly, and then B, possesses a photograph or video of any person which depicts nudity, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
A, the minor did not solicit the photograph or video. So they could commit the offense, but they need to take reasonable steps to tell a school official or a parent or a law enforcement officer that they got
Right.
this thing and they want it.
But 3 applies to solicits the transmission or distribution of any text, message, etc.
Yes.
Okay. But they're, I mean, they're still minors and you don't want them doing it. I just don't know. They do it, that's for sure. So,
I think, to your point, as far as this committee is
yeah,
considering the finances, I guess I'll move to approve.
I'll second it. I'll just add that it's because it's for the purpose of only considering the fine and the potential revenue in front of this committee. So, anything else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Back to the agenda. 6E, consideration of ordinance 17-18-704, amending chapter 334-4 of the Code of Ordinances regarding weapons in public buildings.
Okay, this is again our school resource officer, who should be here presenting this to you tonight, requested an amendment to our existing ordinance, which prohibits weapons in public buildings. And what this does is it adds facsimile, the definition of facsimile firearms, which is in the state statute, and also adds under A3 educational facility. I emailed copies of all these ordinances to Dan Olson, the superintendent, and he was in favor. He supported all of them. We didn't specifically discuss them point by point, but he supported all of them. And this, when we talk about a facsimile firearm, it's something that it basically it's not a real firearm, but it would appear to be a real firearm. We've had cases where kids have brought facsimile firearms in their backpacks into the schools, and there's been, no charge that the school resource officer could file against them.
So this wouldn't, well, I mean, I was going to look up the definition in the state statutes, but this wouldn't apply to a squirt gun, for example, unless it appeared to be a weapon.
High quality look like.
Right. No, is it?
Well, I mean, the state statute, which is 941.2965, a facsimile firearm means any replica, toy, starter pistol, or other object that bears a reasonable resemblance to or that reasonably can be perceived to be an actual firearm. So, I mean, they do make squirt guns that look
Yeah.
like real guns.
Right, yeah.
And
That's what I said.
they make real guns that look like toy guns now. So.
Okay. Right. Okay, yeah, and obviously one danger is that in a confrontation, it could be perceived that it's a real firearm and they could end up being shot by somebody, law enforcement or somebody else, so.
There was one point I know the SRO was concerned about, but then discussing it with our city attorney, he felt that we should leave it is that if the weapon or facsimile firearm is in a vehicle and it's locked up in a parking facility, he didn't feel that that would rise to the occasion of charging someone with just possessing if it was locked in their car. It's only if it was displayed on the property or in the schools. You know, somebody could be at like a game park or something like that, or playing and just innocently left it in their car. As long as they're not waving it around, threatening people with it, we felt that just the mere possession of it in the car would not be an offense.
Okay, anything else?
No.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Suppose I ought to be asking for motions at the beginning, but I'll try to. 6F, I think well, you have these are all came from you. Anyway, 6F, consideration of ordinance 7-18-705, amending chapter 335-8C1 of the Code of Ordinances regarding amplified device permits. I think this actually came from Joan.
Yes. I don't have to get up though. In reading the ordinance, I see that these permits, according to our ordinance, are issued by the police chief, and they have not in history been issued by the police chief. They've been issued by the city clerk. So we wanted to add the language, his or her designee, after the police chief language, so that our ordinance reflects what we actually do. That seems to be kind of what the council is leaning toward, is to make our ordinances actually be real. What we actually do, not what we,
Right.
whatever. So, and then also we realized that there wasn't in the fee schedule any fee at all for a permit. So we wanted to add that in. And then the License Review Committee wanted to also have the option for a 3 consecutive day permit and not charge the individual day rate for it. We do have events at churches where they have the whole weekend, and also one of our businesses seems to be applying for entire weekends of amplified device permits. So that's also added to this.
Okay. Andy?
Are these rates or the fees, are they pretty standard across municipalities, or? I
The
mean, because I look
fees-
at $10 and I think it's pretty nominal, but.
We have not done any study on the fee. It's what we've been charging,
Okay.
and so needed to get it into the actual schedule. If the fee needs to be reviewed, that would be a separate process. We just want to get what we do in there.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It is low. It's certainly well below our administrative cost of processing them. One question I have, since, why not just change it, take the chief of police out of it and change it to the city clerk or his or her designee?
It's in the part of the ordinance that really has nothing else to do with the city clerk's work.
Okay.
And so it might throw it off, like all of a sudden, why is the clerk being mentioned in this ordinance? It's really about noise issues, et cetera. And so the clerk has nothing else to do with noise issues except this permit. So.
Okay. Well, I think either way works. So.
Yeah.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And back to the chief. 6G, consideration of 17-18-706, repealing and recreating Chapter 175-25 of the Code of Ordinances regarding swimming pools and in-ground hot tubs. Chief Ostringa.
Okay, this came through the Public Safety Committee because public safety deals with the police department issues, fire department issues, and also building inspection. At the time, we didn't have anyone in our building inspection department that was going to take the lead on this with, sort of in transition period. So I had a lady that lives over on Chateau, where her children her grandchildren live over in Chateau back in March, and she was concerned because there was a neighbor next door that would put up a swimming pool, above ground pool that was right at the level of their deck without any safety railings or anything like that on it. So I looked at the existing ordinance, which is the red line version, which is the section 175-25 that is currently the Monona ordinance, and it really, a permanent pool is any pool which is in ground. So it doesn't address any temporary pools. So only under section 175-25C enclosure, all outdoor permanent swimming pools shall have a fence or other enclosure not less than 4 feet in height, completely enclosing said pool. It doesn't address any above ground or temporary swimming pools. So I talked to Mike Bortz, who is one of the contract building inspectors, and asked him for some advice, and he provided us with the pool regulations that they used in Portage, Wisconsin. So we used the Portage, Wisconsin ordinance as a template, brought it to public safety. Public safety said proceed with it. There was one question about height of the fence, and they felt that 4 feet was a good height for a fence. And then it went to our city attorney. He put it in this format, went back to public safety. They voted on it to move to city council, and here we are.
Questions, comments?
I did read through this, but I forget, is it retroactive?
I believe no.
Okay.
I'd have to read through it again, but I think if
Another pool.
pools are currently in place, they'd be grandfathered in. But
Okay.
now the temporary pools that are temporary, once those get set up, then they would have to comply. And they don't necessarily have to have a 4-foot fence around them. They just have to have some sort of like a gate that locks up or some way to contain it so people can't get inside them.
Do they, I mean, obviously, if you do an in-ground pool, you need a permit. Do you need a permit for an above-ground or a temporary pool that you're talking about?
Police chief does not know.
Yeah,
Well, under this ordinance, you would.
yeah,
Otherwise, I assume not.
okay.
This normally falls under code enforcement, which
Yeah.
I don't usually get involved with.
You don't know.
So my biggest concern with it is in where it defines exempt pools, which is another way of saying which pools it actually does apply to. The originally said the maximum dimension of 15 feet, and it didn't say in diameter, and I was talking to April, and we kind of added in diameter, but they're not all circles, so I'm not really sure how they measure them in Portage, or how we would, like if you had a rectangular pool, so I think that needs to be cleaned up somehow. And then the maximum wall height of 15 inches, I just went on Amazon and did a quick search for pools, and there's a lot of pools, all the pools, kiddie pools, summer pools, temporary pools, they were all more than 15 inches high. And I think for the ordinance to apply, it had to be more than the 15 feet in diameter and more than 15 inches high. But, so, I'd like to see a greater height on it and clarify what the dimension requirements are. So that's something that needs to be looked at before the next meeting, and I guess I'm kind of looking to the city administrator to figure out who's going to do that.
Yeah, nobody's really a pool expert in our organization.
Right.
And we've looked at several samples, and a lot of them read like this, or they kind of take the opposite approach where they are very hands-off. So it seems like one extreme or another, so.
Could we just strike out and just mention storable children's swimming? Because I feel like those dimensions are getting at a kiddie pool. But, you know, you leave the storable children's swimming pool or wading pools and then strike out the rest of it. It gives you the leniency to say, you know, if Wally goes there, yeah, this is clearly a kiddie pool. We do not need to build a fence around it, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how specific we need to get.
Yeah, I don't either.
So,
It's sort of like regulating common sense, and,
Yeah.
you know, the whole thing is I think it comes down to, can a toddler get into it?
Yeah.
I think that's really the question, and how
Yeah.
does one figure that part out? And
Right.
I haven't seen a fantastic way to do it, but we can certainly keep looking.
Yeah.
I mean, my recommendation would just be to strike it and leave it pretty general with the wading pool.
I don't know what that might make it not, would make it more
Harder to
difficult to
enforce.
enforce, I think.
Yeah.
But,
Is that true?
Well, I suppose, I mean, you have these temporary pools that people put up, and what's temporary? Is that just one day? If they fill it up and they leave it up there for the whole summer, and it's like in their yard and there's no fence around it, and some kid goes running through there, trips and falls in it, you have a tragedy. So
Yeah.
that's where, common sense would kick in, but
And I think in reality, I mean, there's probably a component where you're responding more to a complaint basis on some of this type of situation. You know, it depends. If somebody's living next to somebody and they do have toddlers running around, that might be one situation. You know what I mean? I don't know that it's something we're gonna actively code enforce unless
No.
there's a complaint.
I wouldn't think so either, but I think it ought to still, most people want to conform to the law if they know about the law, and this does require, if it applies, it requires a permit and either a fence or some type of cover that locks, that doesn't lock, or that is secure, or a locked gate, I think. There's, I don't know. So, but again, for us, it's mainly the revenue part of it, and again, it's general penalty applies, so.
Move to approve?
I'll second, again, would note on the basis that we're only reviewing it for the permit fee. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I think. Well, let's see, 6H, consideration of ordinance 17-18-707, amending sections 335-1, section A, subsection 25, and 335-9, section B of the fees, fines, and penalties schedule.
In the interest of time, I'll keep it brief because I know you both are very familiar with the dark store situation.
We're on the one before that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Fee
Is
schedule.
there a
I
motion?
jumped
Want
over.
to make a motion on this?
Sure,
one?
move to approve.
Second. So this is, just increasing the penalty for false alarms and creating a penalty for public urination or defecation.
about the last couple of weeks of school, the fire department responded to numerous false alarms at the high school, some of which where the kids were Snapchatting and tweeting them and putting out information sometimes before the fire department even got on scene. So the SRO and also the fire chief were in favor of raising the fine from the base fine, which was $50 to $200 plus court costs for the false alarms. And then the other section, again, the fines seem to be not be appropriate, so they wanted to raise that too also.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
6 ayes, consideration of resolution 18-7-2277 allocating a contribution from general fund balance toward the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Dark Store Elimination Efforts. City
Move.
Administrator, go ahead.
Move to approve.
Second.
The league is requesting that communities statewide give a financial contribution so they can continue their efforts in fighting the dark store and Walgreens tax shifts onto our residential and other non-big box commercial taxpayers. So we are suggesting that we allocate $2,500 from the general fund balance as a contribution to this effort, which very much affects this community.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye, motion carries. Next item on the agenda was to go into closed session, given the time and the fact that we're going to have that closed session at city council. I would say, let's just
It's fine.
skip that, take no action on it. Mark, do you want to go through the checks, or should we wait, just carry them over till next time?
I think we just carry them over, if that's okay, unless you have some questions right away.
I don't.
I know
Can't
Andrew
find my
Cott wanted
questions
to.
quickly, so I'll get them next time.
All right, then, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.